The crowd froze as her voice cut through the air like a knife. Standing tall in her designer heels, the CEO smirked and pointed at the broken engine. "If you fix this, I'll marry you." Laughter erupted all around, but what no one expected was that the poor black mechanic she mocked was about to change everything. Welcome to Black Power, the channel where real stories hit harder than any movie. If you're new here, don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon, because today's story will shake you to the core. New York City, the city of dreams and divisions. The glass towers gleam high above, while the streets below reek of sweat and struggle. In the middle of this chaos stood Amelia Hudson, one of the youngest female CEOs in America. People worshipped her business sense, envied her beauty, and feared her arrogance. She lived in a world of luxury where power was her language and pride her religion. To Amelia, there were only two kinds of people: winners who ruled and losers who served. And then there was Daniel Carter, a mechanic. Black, poor, and invisible to the glamorous world Amelia ruled. His hands were always covered in grease, his clothes always stained with oil. But his heart carried dreams far bigger than his pocket could ever hold. Every day he worked in a small garage to pay for his sick mother's medicine and his little sister's school fees. Life was cruel, but Daniel never allowed pain to kill his hope. On a busy afternoon, fate pulled their worlds together. Amelia's luxury limousine, worth more than Daniel's entire life savings, coughed, rattled, and died right in the middle of the street. Horns blared, people gathered, whispers spread. The Queen of Wall Street was stranded, helpless and furious. Her driver fumbled, her assistants panicked, and Amelia's temper rose with every second. Then Daniel appeared, walking towards the car, wiping his hands on a rag, his eyes calm but confident. "Ma'am, I can take a look," he said softly. The crowd turned to him, some sneering, some curious. Amelia's cold eyes scanned him from head to toe, and then she laughed. A cruel laugh that sliced through the crowd. "You?" she mocked. "A filthy mechanic?" She tilted her head, her diamond earrings catching the sun. "All right then. If you fix this engine, I'll marry you." Gasps, whispers, and then laughter exploded like fireworks. People pulled out their phones, recording the moment, sharing it live. A powerful CEO humiliating a nobody. It was entertainment to them. But Daniel didn't flinch. He didn't even look angry. He just smiled faintly, the kind of smile that hides storms inside. He stepped forward, bent over the open hood, and let his hands do what they knew best. The crowd leaned in closer. Amelia crossed her arms, still smirking, unaware that destiny had just been rewritten. Because in that moment, as the mechanic touched the lifeless engine, no one realized the real story was just beginning. The crowd watched in silence as Daniel's rough hands moved with precision. The engine coughed once, then again, and within minutes, the dead machine roared back to life. Gasps ripped through the air. Phones trembled in hands as the impossible unfolded before their eyes. The smirk vanished from Amelia's face, replaced by shock she couldn't hide. Daniel closed the hood gently, wiped his hands on his rag, and looked straight into her eyes. For a moment, the street was silent except for the purr of the engine. Then voices rose, echoing louder and louder. "He did it! He fixed it! You promised!" Laughter turned into cheers, mocking Amelia now instead of the mechanic. People shouted, recording every second, forcing the powerful CEO into a corner she never imagined. Amelia's jaw clenched. Her pride burned hotter than the sun. With the whole city watching, she forced a bitter smile. "Congratulations," she said coldly. "You've proved yourself useful." Her words dripped with venom, but Daniel didn't react. He simply nodded, turned to the crowd, and began to walk away. That calm dignity stung her more than any insult could. But what Amelia didn't know was that the videos spreading across the internet faster than wildfire were about to destroy the image she had built for years. That single moment, the arrogant dare, the laughter, the mechanic's triumph, was now everywhere. And while Amelia stormed back into her limousine, furious at the humiliation, Daniel returned to his small garage, unaware that his life had just changed forever. Back in his cramped workshop, surrounded by broken engines and rusting tools, Daniel's phone buzzed endlessly. Messages, missed calls, reporters asking for interviews. His little sister ran to him, her eyes wide with excitement. "Daniel! You're on TV!" she shouted. The screen showed his face, sweaty, tired, but shining with something no money could buy. Respect. The world had just discovered the man Amelia tried to mock. And while the city celebrated him as a hero, Amelia sat in her glass tower, staring at the headlines, her empire trembling under the weight of a single broken promise. The headlines spread like wildfire. Arrogant CEO humiliates mechanic, but loses the bet. Every channel replayed the clip. Every phone in the city carried the moment. Amelia's polished image as the untouchable queen of business cracked overnight. Investors called nervously. Partners questioned her judgment. Employees whispered behind her back. For the first time in her career, Amelia felt something she had never allowed herself to feel: fear. But instead of admitting her mistake, she sharpened her pride into anger. In her penthouse office high above Manhattan, she slammed her glass of wine on the table. "No mechanic will destroy me," she hissed. Meanwhile, Daniel's garage overflowed with customers. People came not just for repairs, but to shake his hand, to take pictures, to tell him how proud they were. Strangers offered him money. Companies offered him contracts. Journalists lined up outside his door. His sick mother, lying in her old wooden bed, smiled through tears as she watched her son's face on television. His little sister danced around the room, chanting, "My brother is famous." For Daniel, it felt unreal, like life had finally rewarded his years of silent struggle. But fame carried a price. Not everyone celebrated his rise. A sleek black car pulled up near his garage one night, and two men in suits stepped out. They delivered a message with cold precision. "Miss Hudson suggests you stop giving interviews. Forget the promise. Stay in your lane." Daniel's jaw tightened, but he stayed silent. When they left, he looked at his hands, the same hands that had built engines and carried his family, and whispered to himself, "I won't go back." Days turned into weeks, and the pressure only grew. The video continued to spread worldwide, turning Daniel into a symbol of dignity and resilience. Talk shows debated him, newspapers glorified him, and online campaigns hailed him as the people's mechanic. And the more Daniel rose, the more Amelia's empire shook. Investors pulled millions, stocks fell, and whispers turned into open rebellion inside her company. One evening, as Daniel locked up his garage, a group of young mechanics approached him. They spoke with admiration, calling him an inspiration, asking to work with him, to learn from him. Daniel realized then that his story was no longer just his. It belonged to every worker who had ever been laughed at, insulted, or ignored. He saw a future, not as a poor mechanic trapped in grease and poverty, but as a leader who could build something bigger. And as his dream began to take shape, Amelia stood before her board of directors, her voice cold, her eyes blazing. "He is nothing," she said, "a nobody, and I will crush him." But even as the words left her mouth, she knew deep down. Daniel was no longer the man she had mocked. He was becoming the storm that would tear through everything she thought she owned. The city changed before Daniel's eyes. What was once a small, forgotten garage now buzzed with energy day and night. Cars lined the street, young workers trained under him, and investors who once ignored him now begged for meetings. What began as a repair shop was evolving into something greater. A company built not on arrogance, but on respect. Daniel Carter, the poor mechanic, was becoming Daniel Carter, the entrepreneur. His sister proudly wore a backpack with his new company's logo stitched on it, while his mother sat in a wheelchair, tears in her eyes as she watched her son build a life she once thought impossible. Each bolt he tightened, each hand he shook, each deal he signed, it all carried the weight of years of humiliation transformed into dignity. The city, once blind to him, now bowed to his resilience. But in the skyscraper above, Amelia's empire burned. Contracts vanished, her boardroom turned hostile, and the same investors who once praised her brilliance now demanded answers. Every time her face appeared in the media, the viral clip resurfaced, a scar she could not erase. She tried lawsuits, threats, intimidation, but nothing silenced the voice of the mechanic she once mocked. Her empire, built on pride, was crumbling in her own hands. One evening, Amelia arrived at a gala, desperate to prove she still ruled the city. Cameras flashed, champagne flowed, but as she entered the hall, whispers chased her every step. Across the room, Daniel appeared, not in greasy clothes, but in a tailored suit, his head high, his presence commanding. The crowd parted for him, not for her. For the first time, Amelia felt small. She forced a smile and approached him. "Enjoying your 15 minutes of fame," she sneered softly. Daniel looked at her with calm eyes, the same calm that once fixed her car in the middle of the street. "It's not fame," he replied. "It's respect. Something money can't buy." Her throat tightened, but she masked it with laughter. Yet inside, the truth gnawed at her. He had what she lost, and it was killing her. As weeks passed, Daniel's company launched officially, attracting headlines around the world. He stood on stages, speaking not just about engines, but about dignity, equality, and opportunity. Young men and women listened with fire in their eyes. His story was no longer about fixing a broken engine. It was about fixing a broken system. He became more than a mechanic, more than a businessman. He became a symbol. And Amelia, once untouchable, now faced the ruins of her arrogance. Her board voted her out, her name dragged through dirt, her power dissolved. The woman who mocked a mechanic now found herself mocked by the world. And as she sat alone in her empty penthouse, staring at the city lights, she knew she was no longer feared, no longer admired. She was forgotten. Months passed, and Daniel's company became a powerhouse. What started as a small garage was now a hub for innovation, a beacon for every worker who had been ignored, belittled, or laughed at. Daniel walked through the halls, greeted by smiling faces, employees who looked up to him, investors who now trusted him implicitly. Each step was a testament to his struggle, every handshake a victory over the years of mockery and poverty. His mother's laughter filled the office, and his little sister ran alongside him, her eyes wide with pride. He had built not just a business, but a legacy. Amelia, on the other hand, was a shadow of her former self. The penthouse she once ruled felt empty, the accolades and trophies meaningless. People who once bowed to her power now whispered behind her back, the viral clip a permanent reminder of her arrogance. She tried to regain control, but every move she made was met with skepticism and mockery. The world she thought she controlled had shifted, and she was left staring at a reflection she no longer recognized. One evening, Daniel hosted a charity gala, inviting young entrepreneurs, mechanics, and students from disadvantaged communities. Cameras clicked, speeches inspired, and applause echoed through the grand hall. Amelia entered quietly, hoping to assert some semblance of authority, but the moment she stepped inside, all eyes turned to Daniel. The crowd's admiration was palpable, and her presence felt insignificant. She approached him hesitantly. "Daniel," she began, but the words faltered. Daniel turned, looked at her with the same calm confidence he had the day he fixed her car, and said simply, "I don't need anything from you. Respect was the only thing I ever wanted, and now I have it." There was no malice, no gloating, just truth. Amelia's shoulders slumped. The pride that had once defined her shattered completely. She realized that life's lessons could not be bought or enforced. They had to be earned. As the gala continued, Daniel watched his employees, his family, and the people whose lives he had touched. His journey from the streets of New York to this hall was not just about wealth or recognition. It was about proving that integrity, perseverance, and humility could triumph over arrogance, prejudice, and entitlement. Amelia walked away quietly, and for the first time, She felt the weight of being powerless. Daniel had not just fixed an engine that day in the street. He had fixed the course of his life and inspired a city to believe that the underdog could rise. The night ended with applause, laughter, and hope. And as Daniel looked out over the city skyline, he smiled, knowing that the real victory was never about her. It was about becoming the man the world could not ignore.